Do you hear that? Do you hear the Jaws music? It's not emanating from your grandfather watching AMC in the other room. It is emanating from Knoxville, Tennessee, because Tennessee is a very dangerous program right now. Well, yeah, I know Heupel can score, Josh, but what are you talking about? No, not that, friends. Within the last few hours, Tennessee recruiting at it again. They have flipped Jaden Harmon. That's a four-star linebacker committed to, checks notes, Alabama. Not any longer, he's not, because he flipped Tennessee. And that comes on the heels of David Sanders Jr. committing, I believe, yesterday, five-star offensive tackle, one of the biggest commitments they've ever had there, by the way. So Tennessee recruiting is rolling. That's not even to mention that Nico Iamaleava will be their starting quarterback this year. It's one of the highest-rated quarterback commits they've ever had, and they've had some quarterbacks at Tennessee. We're 2 years removed from them going 11-2 and beating Alabama, as we talked about a little while ago in Knoxville, and kind of showing the world a sneak preview of what could be. But you know as well as I do, this is a new era. This is the NIL era. It's the portal era. And therefore, it's the era where anytime anyone does anything in recruiting, you get accused of paying players, which is strange because it's totally legal. And if your team does it, you celebrate. And if your rival does it, you claim it's a sign that the sport is just fading off into the abyss. Well, I've told you before, and I'll tell you again. It's not that simple. Colin, we talked about this no more than a month ago. It's already time to dust off the old Pate State archives. Let's remind the folks what we said about Tennessee recruiting. The NIL structure is top-notch there. If you don't know any better, you think that just means they have a lot of money they can throw around. They do have a lot of money they can throw around. That is not NIL recruiting anymore. It was for about 5 minutes. For about 5 minutes, NIL was who can offer the most money. It was just very surface-based. Okay, real recruiting in the NIL era is several layers deep. It is not just, I can get you this much money over this many years. There is an entire plan that has to be laid out. And secondly, if you're recruiting top-end players, they're getting money from anywhere they go. So the money, ironically, is not what pushes most of these recruitments over the finish line. It's the plan. Okay, Texas is brilliant at this. Oregon's brilliant at this. There are a couple other programs that are recruiting halfway decently right now that I think have a ways to go in that. Tennessee, though, is one of the sneakiest, well put together NIL operations in college football right now. Please don't overlook something I said there. I actually didn't plan on talking about this. But because of what I'm going to talk about later in the show with Mike Gundy, and I know the response I'll get to that, I do want to address something. What I said there is Oregon, Texas, Tennessee, three of the most well put together NIL recruiting operations in college football. I also said a month ago, and I will absolutely reiterate it right now, there are some other programs out there recruiting pretty well who do not have that depth of NIL structure put together. And what that means is you might not be able to tell it on the surface because their results and the immediacy look good. But what I'm telling you beneath the surface is they can't fulfill on their promises and it will come back to bite them. Or they think it's as simple as just going and outspending everyone, and that creates a football team. And either way, that's a failed strategy. That is not what Tennessee's doing. So then we move forward to the whole what's Tennessee capable of. Tennessee's capable of being one of the superpower programs in college football. I know that because they have been, even in my lifetime. Well, Josh, they can't be that. That's the past. Well, it is the past, but it could also be the future. So I keep throwing this challenge out there. I'll do it again. Respectfully, I'll do it again. I'm happy to hear anyone that pushes back on this, but you got to push back with more than just nothing sucks worse than a big orange. My challenge to you is explain to me in logic-based terms why you don't think Tennessee could be a premier program. Because I simply define what I think it takes to be one, and then I look and they have all of that, and so I think they could be. And I'd be happy to go a lot deeper in that if anyone wants to. So the second part of this is I think it's a dangerous program because everyone knows what Georgia can be. Everyone knows what Bama can be. Everyone knows what Michigan can be. Everyone doesn't know what Tennessee can be. So, Colin, we went deeper on this subject as well about a month ago. Got a lot of pushback on this. I'm going to play the clip for you, and then I'll talk about it on the other side. You got a taste of what this thing could be in 2022. There's a lot of really good in their program right now that is knocking on the door of great to elite. That's the next step. Okay, it wasn't an overnight thing. Josh Heupel didn't walk in and they immediately became Bama 2.0. It's happening at Tennessee in a much more realistic way. A much more realistic way is step by step by step by step. And in an immediate gratification world, a lot of the country's paying attention initially, and then they don't immediately see you win a title, so they turn their back and walk away, and meanwhile, you're just step by step by step by step. It's all there. It's all there. Just because it hasn't been capitalized on in a generation doesn't mean it went away. The investment year over year, the fan base, the passion, the recruiting base even. I used to get that thrown at me. I mean, again, I try and be respectful about this. I used to have this debate when Tennessee was terrible. I would have this debate with people. I mean, like when they were horrifically bad, I would still maintain the same thing I'm telling you now. Tennessee could be one of the best programs in the country. At the time, they couldn't get out of their own way. But I would say that even then, and people would say no, because the in-state recruiting's not there. State borders have never mattered less than they do right now. They matter. I'm telling you, they've never mattered less than they do now. Doubly especially when you insert things like NIL in the portal, but even without NIL in the portal. Forget so much about the state lines of Tennessee. I always asked, what happens when I draw a 6-hour radius around Knoxville? I get North Georgia, I get parts of northern Alabama, of course I get all the state of Tennessee, minus I think Memphis, and Memphis will be able to be recruited by Tennessee always, the Carolinas, up into Virginia. You've got more than enough talent there, and Tennessee can recruit nationally if they want to. So that's always been a non-starter of an argument for me, and now you look at the structure they have in their NIL up there, and I don't know if you guys have visited Knoxville lately, but they're not taking much of a backseat to anyone in investment in facilities and infrastructure and whatnot either. So it is a really well put together operation that, if anything, is still surging. I still think there are a ton of doubters out there about Tennessee, and that's fine. Like, everything I'm laying out is just potential. That doesn't mean it'll be realized. They could go 8-4 this year. They could continue to trip up. They could never fulfill on this. That doesn't mean the potential's not there. People fail to maximize potential all the time. One of the most common things in society is someone having potential and not realizing it. But the argument I'm having is some people don't think the potential's there. The potential's absolutely there. Above and beyond that of 95% of programs in America, it's there. I mean, Tennessee, guys, I got some 20-year-olds listening to the show right now, and you're just calling BS on this. Do your homework. Go look at what Tennessee football was once upon a time. Also, as you're doing that homework, you don't have to go back too far for this. My college crowd and high school crowd remembers this. It wasn't that long ago, folks thought Tennessee was fading off into the abyss, that they were fading off into the wilderness. They were staring down the barrel of multiple NCAA investigations. The whole Jeremy Pruitt thing had just happened, and that was on top of other multiple fired coaches before him. And frankly, when they hired Josh Heupel, that didn't create a massive wave nationally. There were some people who would even tell you that had Heupel not had a good year, if UCF kept him, he may be on the hot seat down there. So they went and got Heupel, Danny White, the AD hire. This did not rock the country by any stretch, but yet it was the absolute home run hire that was needed, both fronts, at the right time. The leadership up there, I think Dondi Plowman several times in recent history has shown she is not to be trifled with, as Michael Scott would say. So it's alignment. Alignment is a word that every coach uses, that fans hardly ever use, but they know because they live it day to day. When you've got alignment and then you've got the resources you need, you look in the mirror every morning and you say, I'm a good enough football coach. If I've got alignment, then I'm good. If you don't, you know too many of the opposition, too many of your opponents do have alignment. And so it's like you feel like you're getting out of bed with your shoelaces tied to each other every morning. Well, that's not how it feels for Josh Heupel at Tennessee anymore.